Hi, this is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic, and today I have a special guest, Sally Pederson of globalcitizenlife.org. I was on her podcast last week and I just enjoyed that a lot. And during that podcast, we thought it'd be a great idea to get her insight to some of the hottest real estate markets around the world right now. So, Sally, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you an expert on international real estate?
Well, thanks for having me, Anthony, and I did enjoy our conversation last week as well. And I guess part is I've traveled to, I think I'm at about 45 or 46 countries now. I've lived in five different countries. So I've kind of been around the world quite a bit, not obviously everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just see how not only things are different in the aspect of travel, but how things work differently in different countries. Real estate, business, lifestyle, culture, and things like that. So I've gotten to know several countries fairly well.
Well, and this is what you do. You help people form companies and live the expat life. Really, that's what you do.
Absolutely. And I think, just because you were born in a country doesn't mean you're stuck in a country. And we've all heard the saying, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. And most people, I think, when they hear that, they think, oh, so don't just put all my money in the stock market. Don't just put all my money in real estate. And that is true, but it's also don't put all of your money in one country. Because although it could be doing well now, other countries could be doing better. And we never know where countries are going to go. We've seen countries do very well and then over the last few years do very bad, whether it's political, economic, things like that. So things are always changing. So, really, for a global lifestyle, we have global diversification. You could have things designed where you live in one country, you have investments in maybe three or four different countries, you've got bank accounts in different countries, you could have real estate in different countries, invest in the stock market in different countries. Everything, I don't like using the word should, but everything shouldn't be all locked up in one country. It really is better to have a global diversification.
Well, you would have just passed my financial portfolio management class that I took in
Oh,
college.
good.
Absolutely, because in the biggest lesson I learned was the difference between systemic risk and unsystemic risk. And you can, by diversifying, you could just be left with your unsystemic risk. And so it's basically free money. Maybe I'll get a slide up later to explain that a little bit. But really, the thing that kind of got me going on this was I was having a conversation with a client of mine, and right now the Florida market is hot, hot, hot,
Mhm.
hot, and he's a finance guy. So he just says, well, Anthony, I looked at the cap rate. And let me just get this. I want to get this slide up here to kind of explain to people what exactly we're talking about.
Hmm.
Um, the cap rate. He goes, well, I looked at the cap rate for these properties in Sarasota. And he goes, it's insane. It's like you're paying way too much and not getting anything, not enough back. And this is where I think people, wind up creating bubbles and getting caught in the bubble, is that they don't do their own homework. And that, hey, look, people want to sell you something. They all want to sell you something.
They all
Your
do
job
for
is to
the
say,
most amount of money they can.
yes, of course you qualify. Of course this is the right thing. But that's not, and of course everyone else is doing it. But that
Right.
might not necessarily be the right thing for you. And so I just enjoyed our conversation because I was able to talk to him. He goes, well, I looked around and I found out he found a much better cap rate in Turks and Caicos. He found
Mhm.
a beautiful investment to make it essentially creating a chateau outside a hotel. And we're looking at these numbers, and there's nothing that we could think of in the U.S. that sort of has this upside. And because of the air, because of the, here's the risk though. This is what I would say the risk is that he goes, well, look, what's going on right now? Turks and Caicos is really, really hot because there's a direct flight from JFK to Turks and Caicos
Mm.
Airport. It's a 15-minute water taxi ride to my place, and it's hot. But one of the things is like, what happens if you lose that? What happens if something happens at an airport? Your value, you got to be careful where you're going. So while it's great to diversify outside the U.S., you also might want to think about, is this all your eggs in one basket as well? So what would you say here? Is this, do you find people do this analysis, or
I
this is what you help people with?
I think unfortunately people don't really do it enough. They think, oh, this real estate market is hot. And generally, then that's not the time to buy unless you need to live there. But for investment purposes, it's not, because it's already kind of too late. Because if you're buying while it's hot, you're usually spending more money. And we also have to think about, it's not also just purchase value. Like, what is it for? If is it an investment and it's going to be rented? Well, okay, how much can you rent it for? There's still expenses. There's still maintenance that needs to be done. Are you management? Is it going to be you? Are you hiring a management company? So it really comes down to numbers, and investing usually doesn't work profitably if it's in a hot market already. You want to be somewhere where it's lesser, ideally lesser known, but moving up. And I mean, even I'm in Canada right now, and I wouldn't be buying property in Canada right now. Like, the prices are getting to be crazy. Like, it's great if you're an owner here now, but
Yes, exactly.
to buy for investment, it just doesn't really make sense. Um, and so we really have to look at all of the numbers, not just what's a hard market. Because if you want that, then you want to look at what's an up and coming, what's moving forward, what's going to be getting busier. Because we also have to think, and we've seen the real estate bubbles. What goes up also comes down. So we need to think, is this a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year plan? Like, what is your purpose within these investments? And that's why I said too, it's different. If you need to move there because you're working, you're going to live there, then of course the numbers that you're going to be looking at are going to be different. The purchase value is the purchase value, but then whole reasoning behind it is different.
I just want to invite everyone with that. If anyone knows, if anyone watching right now has a real estate hotspot that they know of, please just leave it in the comments. We want to know, or a hotspot that's on the way up, because you're saying it exactly right. The hotspots are great when you're selling,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah,
so
because you're gonna make money. It's
you're
hot.
looking for the market yet to be hot, unless you're taking a job, or there's something, there's a non-economic reason why the place is
Hmm.
very attractive. And I would say, I think real estate is one of the easiest things to become emotional about,
Oh,
right?
yes. Yes, and that's a danger. And real estate agents and corp companies, I mean, they play those emotions. It's so beautiful, it's nice, it's warm and cozy, and they work on all those emotions to get you to buy. But then again, we have to come back to, what is the purpose? And if it's investment, you can't have emotion, you have to know numbers. If you're going to live there, then absolutely have emotion.
Right.
Your home should always be your sanctuary. You always should love coming home after work, or being there. So again, we have to look at the reasons. Why are we investing? Why are we buying? Why are we looking at this area? And is it going to be the emotional purchase of a home, or is it investment? And we need to look at just numbers.
All right. Well, hey, we've gone on for about 9 minutes so far, and I've hinted to at least one that I know of, Turks and Caicos, but that actually might be just one small segment. So I'm not going to go out and say that, but look around for that. So let's share what is your top current on the way up that you see.
Well, there's actually two countries that I think that are definitely on their way up. One is where I do have property in Montenegro, which is in Europe. It's part of the Balkans. And just south of there is Albania. And when I say Albania, most people, they're like, what? That's crazy. Is it even safe there? Like, they get a little bit kind of weird. But if we think about the whole coastline there, so where it's located, we have Croatia to the north. South of Croatia, we have Montenegro. South of that, we have Albania. And south of that is Greece. Now, we know Greece and Croatia have gotten to be very expensive. If you're inland, less so, but if we're talking that coastal region, very expensive. And so the two places that are left are Montenegro and Albania, and I'm seeing a lot of development in coastal cities and towns along
I
there.
pulled up a map so
And
people can understand. I mean, really,
perfect.
where it is. I mean, geographically, it seems like it would be pretty lovely. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Greece right there,
Hmm.
kind of known for some stunning beauty.
Yes.
You have Italy right there. So, I mean, Albania and Montenegro right next to each other.
Hmm. And
I
so
would
it's
say at
all the
least,
same coastline, all the same beauty scenery. So when we see all the prices in Greece and all the prices in Croatia, Montenegro and Albania are, and they are moving up. And there's a company, I don't know the name of it, but they've done a lot of development in in Dubai and around the world, and they are building what they're calling the mini Dubai in Albania.
oh, wow. That is key
And
information right there.
they've
That's some,
already started, and I'm actually hoping to go
oh,
look at some property there.
oh, wow. Now Montenegro is a little bit smaller, right?
Yes.
It's a little bit smaller. What about the government? What about it? I mean, I'm sure I have a myth of it, and I'm sure reality differs from my myth of what it is.
I mean, it's a pretty solid government. Montenegro is a very small country. The population's tiny, right? Well, right now because of the war going on with Ukraine and Russia, I'm sure the population I know it has increased, but before that, officially the population of the entire country was around 650,000 people.
Okay.
So it's small,
Yeah.
and the population's really small, but it is absolutely beautiful. And it has great weather. There's mountains too for skiing for people who love that. There's the coastline for beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
And a solid government there. They're also part of NATO. They do want to join the EU. We'll see kind of how that goes. They've
Yeah.
used the euro already. And so it's pretty stable. Some people say it's the Monaco of the Balkans.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would say I mean, its beauty seems like it could compare to a Monaco at least. I mean, it's the same Mediterranean Ocean
Hmm.
on its shore.
Hmm.
And I'm just looking, I mean, geographically wise, just looking at a map, how can this not be, if it has a stable enough government, how could this not be a winner? Look at what it's around.
Right.
It's right. Here's Croatia, the hot, I mean, what was it, 10 years ago? I was talking about, oh, Croatia's the thing. What's Croatia? What? And then
Yeah.
it really took off.
Hmm.
And now you see, plenty of, you got a coastline, in both. So that seems like it could really, yeah, I would agree that these seems like they're well poised. Like these are like the last kids on the block to
Hmm.
kind of like, hey, look at
Really.
this, we're joining you. So yeah, I would agree. These are some places to really look at. Now, have you lived? So do you have any other place? Have you lived in Asia? Are you familiar with Asia at all?
I'm not, but I
Okay.
do plan on spending some time in Asia. I'm hoping kind of January, February, when it's cold in North America, and even Montenegro doesn't get that cold, but it's still cool. But I want to be somewhere warm during the winter time, and so I'm hoping to check out some more in Asia. Um, Malaysia comes up quite a lot. That
Yeah, that's what I
I've
was just
I've
going to
heard
say.
a
I was just
lot
going to
about
say that. That was
Malaysia.
if there was one that I know people are still calling me from, and Malaysia kind of surprised me a while ago when I'd be
Mhm.
getting calls from people all around on the world, and we had quite a few clients in Malaysia, and the expat life there seemed to be pretty good. I had a few clients working engineers
Mhm.
working over there, and they really did buy some property low, 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 and that comes up there too. So let me just sort of Malaysia seems like it's something that let me just see. Malaysia is a big, and because it's basically, and I think this too is like you think about like Singapore's played out. Like you're not gonna
Oh
not
yeah,
gonna
and
get
it's so
anything. Like
expensive. Singapore
good
is
luck.
so expensive.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's right, and and now it's, it depends if you're, I think if you're on a Kuala Lumpur, I think that's kind of probably played out a little bit. But if we look
Hmm.
into the other parts of the country, uh, you might want to look there. That's something that I've still heard about. Vietnam is getting a little bit too popular, right?
Yes. I
What
was
about
going to say
Cambodia?
Cambodia and Vietnam are I think a little bit more long term. Like,
Yeah.
but their economies generally have done quite well. Like when we think of going back to 2008 and things like, North America, we've had some pretty good kind of crashes and things happen. They've pretty stable, both Cambodia and Vietnam, and they're growing. And I think I don't want to say that there's a move away from China, but since the pandemic, with the shipping problems and everything kind of being manufactured in China, countries and companies are thinking, wait a minute, we need more than just one manufacturing hub.
Yes.
And Cambodia and Vietnam are really, I find, starting to pick that up.
All
There,
right. Well,
there's more stuff that's going on there. More things are starting to be made there, designed there. And so, even though I think it is more of a longer term, I think Montenegro, Albania, and Malaysia will be growing quicker. But if somebody wants maybe even a lower cost investment, but more longer term, then I would be looking more into the Cambodia, Vietnam.
I think that sounds about right to me. And um, this is sort of my thinking on this too is that who's going to buy your property, because you're looking, maybe this is something that you hang on for life, but hey, look, having options to sell at a high price is always nice because maybe you
Of
want to let
course,
someone else.
that's
And so I
mhm,
think you have to think about, when you're buying a property, think about who your potential buyer would be. Now, for
mm,
me, I would think, well, the person I would want to sell to is an American, because Americans tend to have more resources, more financial power than other people. And so, in a place like Vietnam and Cambodia, where manufacturing and high value jobs need by Americans, where they are bringing people in, engineers, bringing in engineers, MDs, PhD, these high paying jobs. That's sort of where it gives you a clue. Like, wait a second, this might be a really good investment, because I could create a good property that would be good for Americans.
mm,
And that's where I'd say, if you see where the jobs are being created,
right.
that gives you a great indication about where Americans will show up, and it gives you a great indication that you might be able to really, turn this into something a much bigger. Um, Anything? I can't really think of any bargains in Australia. I can't think of anything there that's sort of on the.
No, I don't think so. One that I haven't really looked at just because I've heard it in the news, is with Bali and some of the islands. They're introducing a new, well, I think it's a residency program, a residency by investment program. And so that may have the potential to increase some of the prices there if people want to be moving there. But I think that's a little bit more short term.
Yeah. All right, we got a comment from Suzanne here.
Mhm.
She is saying she's sort of worried about Malaysia is going to potentially be hit with the Chinese economic woes that are starting to hit. And I could probably take a contrarian view to that too. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure which way it would go, because Chinese economic woes could help Malaysia, or it could drag it down, either way. And I would think that it would probably depend on who you are thinking your property is for.
Mm,
That, and I would say this, that if you were investing in Malaysia for a Chinese investor, yeah, Suzanne might really have a point there,
mhm.
or someone heavily invested in there. Not to say I know exactly what's going on in China. I have no idea, really. I'm just kind of going with kind of what I know, my own anecdotal evidence, that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, Man, China was everything that we talked about, and I went to a lot of hedge fund meetings with in Greenwich, Connecticut was trying to become a liaison between China and the U.S. fund market, and that sort of just fell away. The whole buzz of China just sort of like, you know what? There's a lot of differences between U.S. and China, and those investors sort of lost interest in it. And so I know that. I know that the interest in China as this economic powerhouse is just, I don't think people really believe that anymore, which will lead to the cascading effect. And that's why I would say I could see that going either way, right? Would you say, what would you say?
I agree. I think there will be certain maybe sectors and potentially certain areas and regions that might be hit and go down. But then on the flip side, there could be other areas and regions that aren't going to be affected. And so I think it is hard to say, but I also think, as you said, you have to think about if you're buying real estate there, why are you buying? What is your reason? What's your exit strategy going to be? Is it you want to buy to rent locally and then you're going to be within a certain region, the cost to buy is going to be lower, you're renting locally, but then you have to think when your exit strategy, is it going to be an up and coming, is it kind of on that move, or is it something that you're going to be looking more for international people coming from Australia, from North America, from parts of Europe who will be there. So you really have to kind of look at the big picture, not just, oh, it's cheap to buy in this city. Yeah, okay, great. We can find cheap
Right.
cities all
Yeah.
around the world,
Yeah.
but what is your reason? Or is it going to be you're going to use it part-time for yourself? You're going to use it part-time and rent it part-time. Like we have to think about the reasonings of the purchase of the property, of the investment, the costs involved with all of it, and then what is going to be the exit strategy? Or is it something that you're going to put into a trust and leave it for your family, and it's ideally like part of your long term and potentially never sold?
Well, what you made me think of is this. Well, let's talk about the United States. Well, the United States has economic woes, so that means real estate will stink. Well, no, it does stink if you own an office. It can really stink, but it can be great if you own apartment buildings. Right now, what I'm seeing is the U.S. real estate market is a total mixed bag. You can pick up office space ridiculously cheap. Not sure you're going to release it to at this point, so that might be a long-term play. And meanwhile, the apartment market is through the roof around here. And now with rates going higher, it seems like the apartment. I mean, that is what I'm. We're not seeing. I'm not seeing the developments of single-family homes. I'm seeing massive apartment buildings that I never imagined would be there. I never thought anyone would put a massive kind of by itself in weird places, and they're leasing out. They're already gone. They're snapped up. So I think that's something else to look at is like, well, not just the country you're in, but the type of property that you're looking for. Because I mean, maybe right now one of the best investments in real estate is U.S. office real. If people start using offices again, hey, look, this could be the thing. And also malls too. Malls are another thing that they're not really doing great either. So that might be one too. And so the overall, it's not right. It's not if there were easy answers, we'd all be rich, right?
Right, right. And
um,
yeah, nothing. We don't know what's going to happen, and there's always waves, right? Like as you said with the um office space, right now it's really low, but is eventually everybody going to be going back to the office full time or not? If they do, great time to invest in office space. If they never do, maybe not so much. So we don't know. But then again, it comes back to what is our reason? Are we diversifying because we want some of everything? And then what is the time to hold and the exit strategy?
Wow. All right. Well, and I'll talk about exit strategy in a second here, but I want to go to a place that I know I don't know. This is a place that I would be very interested in. I'm not
Mm,
saying anyone should go here, but Mauritius, because
mm.
we talk about Albania being the Monaco of the Balkans.
I
Mauritius.
didn't quote, that wasn't my quote, just for the
No, no,
record, but
well, I
that,
have another one for you. Well, I have another analogy for you. Mauritius is the
mhm.
Switzerland of Africa.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So Mauritius is really, really interesting. Now, the thing is, for us as Americans, it's not on our radar because
Hmm.
it's really something you only know about. It's in the middle of the, let me just scroll out a little bit so you guys can see where exactly we are. Why would we know about this place over here?
Right.
Off of the coast of Madagascar. But what Mauritius has, and I have a few clients, a bunch of friends in Mauritius, what it has is a very, very good government, and a lot of stability, a lot of education, and they're really positioning themselves as an alternative to UAE. They're really positioning themselves as an alternative, as a safe place to put your money and to invest from. So this is a tiny, tiny island, but
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, so my first, based on what I heard, from what I have, where I would be investigating is Mauritius office space. That could be something coming up, and again, and then the ancillary um, uh, uh, housing that would be needed for the people that work in these high end jobs, attorneys, accountants. A lot of people in the financial sector. This seems to be the place that's going. I'm pretty impressed by what's going on in the community that they have. They really believe in themselves, and I think they have a lot of civic pride in Mauritius. I mean, tiny, tiny, fun place, and yes, I mean, just look at that. I mean, it's actually pretty close, or I don't know if it's close to India, but there you are. Oh, so a little bit of a flight from the U.S., but that might be someplace to look into. I really do like that. Now I think, and then here's a great, here's another great thing, another comment from Suzanne. She just, let me get this back. Where's my mouse here? Get over here, mouse. Come onto the screen. Come on, there we go. Okay. Uh, um, and then here's the other thing where we have to think about, and I would say this is certainly true. And this is, oh boy, this would be an endless tax conversation, but the fact that our tax policy, and this is really one of the things that why I'm so interested in real estate, not just for myself but for my clients, is that the tax benefits are insane.
Mhm.
They really, your real estate can be your gateway into a world of tax savings. It's really amazing all the things that it can trigger that simply aren't available to you in other areas. It's really, in my mind, having a business is a great way to reduce your taxes, but running a business, it might be a little bit much, especially if you have a full-time job. Whereas real
Hmm.
estate, the thing is, the business you can own. It's a thing, people know what it is, and you could just pay someone to manage it, where it's not going to destroy you. And actually, you could be better off. I mean, really, really better off owning a property and really creating an asset. So I would say this is that always what I always think about. Hey, look, if there's a substantial change in the tax code, that could impact real estate. So you always want to keep
Absolutely.
in mind what it is. But the same, and this is what it is: the same rules that go for as a U.S. person, the same rules for U.S. property apply around the world. So you take advantage of U.S. depreciation. You take advantage of everything. You take advantage of cost segregation overseas. There's no reason why you can't. The only thing that you can't quite do, and this is really interesting, I don't really know the reason why, is when you were talking about exit strategy, because I think real estate's fantastic as a portfolio because you're not really boxed into whatever thing you have. You're not forced to take a gain to get a new one. You could do what's known as a 1031 exchange. There's something that allows that elevates the price of property because hey look, I'm tired of investing in office space in New Haven County, Connecticut. Let me get something else. Well, what you can do is you can do like kind exchange, not just for a different property. If we're in the US, you have to go to US, not just for a different property, but you can even exchange into a real estate investment trust. You can do a 1031 exchange into a real estate investment trust. So I love this for some of my clients who have their rental real estate property that they built over
Mhm.
the years, and now they're getting up there like, I don't really feel like dealing with tenants anymore, but I don't want a massive tax bill. We
Right,
got the solution for
right.
you. You can actually 1031 out into a real estate investment trust. So you can still in real estate, still taking advantage of the lower tax rates and all those things, but you weren't whacked with a massive capital gain. And when you
Mhm.
pass, God forbid, your children will get the stepped up basis. And so, what more can you ask for? That's why real estate's so awesome. Now, here's the trick of the 1031 exchange, and this is bizarre. I don't know the reason why. You cannot 1031 exchange a foreign property to US property or US property to a foreign property. They're considered different things. However, I haven't
Okay.
done it yet, but I did research it. There is nothing to stop you, as far as I can tell, from a 1031 exchange from foreign to foreign. Is only domestic, domestic, foreign to foreign. So that is a way also to think, wait a second, where should I invest? And I think the thing is, once you realize I am going to invest foreign, okay, good. But in order to
Mm.
use that 1031 exchange, again, the laws can change. And the 1031 itself changed recently under 2017, where you could use it for other things than real estate. They went and limited it just to real estate in 2017, which kind of
Okay.
stinks. But at least it's still there.
Mhm. That is thing that we have to consider as well is that, laws can change at any time, especially tax laws. And tax laws, I think I read something the other day that on average, I wanna say it was like 206 tax laws change, and not the whole law, but bits and pieces of it, kinda every year, there's a couple hundred changes throughout the whole tax system every year, and that's a lot of changes. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, that's not gonna
a
affect
lot of tax,
everybody
a
for
lot of change.
everything, but we need to be aware of things can change and how is it now and what are going to be the options, not knowing what the changes could be, but having more than one kind of, as I come back to the exit strategy, what are going to be some potential options if the laws change.
Right. Well, let's. I want to talk about some more potential hot spots. Okay, so I'm a contrarian. So if
Mhm.
everybody hates something, I'm interested. Um, so here's one for you. If you know anything about this, what about Russia? Right, Russia's pretty hated right
Are
now.
you allowed to even say that word?
No, right? But and I was, and really, where if I was, for ease, like I haven't
Mhm.
investigated it, but one place that does, I've looked at some of the pictures online, is actually Siberia. There's some
Mm.
coastline cities in Siberia, and the thing about that, it's close to the U.S. You're if you look, right up here, and I guess they blacklist Siberia. There's actually trust me, there's actually cities here. It's not. I think they're blacklisting. Here we go. So this is one place that I would just investigate, because again, Russia is just so, being contrarian. Who's really interested in it? But just look geographically where this is located.
Mhm.
It can't be that terrible. This just can't be that terrible where my mouse is. So that'd be one place I'd be thinking of. Do you have any? Yeah, I sort of a black hole of I don't know. Um,
I don't know. It would be I'm not sure for Americans or Canadians. Like I do know it's very close, but I'm just not sure with what's going on in the long term, how I think again, what you're gonna use it for, how those types of investments would be used. Who is it gonna be office space? Is it housing? Who is the market gonna be used for? Is it gonna be local people? I don't know how many expats would be moving there. So I think it would be more of the local. So it may be. It's not something that I thought about. I was thinking a little bit on the opposite end of that, is to be when the war is over. there's going to be a lot of investment in Ukraine, a lot of building. How
Ah,
many people will be moving back? I don't know how many won't be because who knows when this is going to end.
whatever can
There's a
happen.
lot that's
Right.
going to
There's
have to
there's
be
a heck of a
rebuilt, a
gamble
lot of
though, right?
infrastructure.
That
So,
actually that kind of makes sense to me. And war zone prices, really, yeah, that'd be really something to look at. And I wouldn't imagine, an issue of an American investing in Ukraine. Um, I don't know for sure. And really, this is conversations with some friends of mine who are from Russia.
mhm,
And I remember just sort of talking to them like, oh, hey, yeah. And like, oh, yeah, I do international tax. I help a lot of people with things overseas when they have assets overseas and not in compliance, help them out. I'm like, well,
mhm.
like, you have anyone like that? Asking. And then, what I remember, Anthony, like we have a toothbrush in Russia. Like we share a toothbrush. There's no money in Russia. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, got it. And so I was like, that's really the thing that made me sort of think like, okay, well, it seems like
Mm,
Russia might be a good investment if you can get in there, but who knows? Right? It's all so much uncertainty, and I certainly wouldn't want to have all my eggs in one basket. If you're joining us, I just want to go over what we with the hotspots we've gone over so far: Montenegro,
mhm,
Albania.
mhm,
We've gone over Malaysia, maybe
mhm.
Cambodia, Vietnam. I'm looking at Mauritius.
Mm.
And now, did we miss anything that we placed? No, sorry. Okay.
No, no, those are all
So,
the ones we've talked so far.
let's think about the continents we have left. South America. Can you think of anything there that might be?
I mean, there is some potential because when we think of land, growing crops, there's not overly populated. If we look at Uruguay is supposed to be beautiful.
Ah,
I've heard it to comparable. How did I hear it comparable to like the European part of South America. Paraguay has a lot of land and underground water. So there's some potential, but it is landlocked with Paraguay. But I've been hearing because I also am a writer for International Living magazine, and we've got a conference coming up, and they do speak about Uruguay and the cost of living, and they're talking a little bit about Paraguay.
I do. You know what? That is a good one. I think and now you're reminding me of some clients there. Yep. That is, I would say that's a good one to investigate. I know we have a lot of clients in Brazil.
Hmm.
Uh, there's a lot going on in Brazil, and it's a huge country.
Yes.
It really is. So that's something about, but Paraguay, right? That's one I think that aren't people aren't thinking about because it's landlocked. I think you're right. I think it
Hmm.
is because it's
And
landlocked.
and getting residency in Paraguay is quite easy. So if
Oh, well, there you
people
go.
so if you want to go and you want a place that you use for some of the time, or for just to have an extra bank account, which is great. A residency in Paraguay is fairly easy to get. Um, and I mean, it's beautiful, it's landlocked, and some people just don't like that because there's some concern of water being an issue in the future, but they do have a fair amount of underground water. But again, it also comes back to what are you investing for? Are you looking at apartment buildings, housing, um, office space? And then again, who are you going to live there? Are you going to be there
Yeah,
part-time?
and
Are
then
you going to
yeah,
just
and then
rent it?
yeah, exactly. Because what's going through my mind is you actually because here's one I don't think people would ever really think about. But this is one I happen to know, have had some clients here, and so I've learned a lot about Nigeria. Nigeria is a rapidly growing country, and it is, I think, at 230 million now. It's going to
Wow.
surpass the United States in population. Now, this is what I would say about Nigeria. If it's something bad in the world, it happens in Nigeria. There's a lot of horror horror stories that you read. You read the Nigerian newspaper, you're just, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And you're thinking to yourself, how could this place possibly survive? It's nothing but horrible, horrible stories, yet it has something going for it. It's growing.
Mm.
It's growing, and it's actually slowly getting better. So while Nigeria might not be the place right now with kidnappings,
Yes,
things.
stability and safety is not at the top of their list.
It's a little, but
But again,
long
but if it's investment and you're not living there,
exactly,
it might still be okay. So it comes back
exactly, long
to,
term, and your demographics are your future. Well,
right.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of people there. That's one country that is growing. And
Yes.
again, I believe its population will be taking over the United States. Probably in 10 years or so.
Wow,
Um,
I did not know that.
yeah, it's much,
I didn't realize there was
and I think
so
what it
many people.
has, and I think what it has is there is a cultural esteem that I've
Mhm.
noticed from people in Nigeria. They really do love it. They really do love it, warts and all. And things, those warts go away,
Mhm.
you got a beautiful country that
Mhm.
is full of vibrant people. I think that that would be something that I'd be looking at there, just by demographics. Just look at demographics,
Right.
and that kind of
Mhm.
gives you an idea. It was like, well, where's this headed? Because as a fail safe, like, okay, maybe you won't. There's one where like, okay, you're probably not going to sell your property to an American,
Right.
or maybe a multinational, but maybe because they're going to have so many people. I could see Nigeria really becoming an industrial center. Hey, that's where the
And
labor
it could be for Africa. It could be like the place to be. And as you said, even with population and growth and technology, I don't know what they're truly known for, but with technology, people can move around and be everywhere. So it could be a place to, as we said, it could be a place for investment. Doesn't mean with any of these investments, doesn't mean you ever actually have to live there, be there, or even
is.
go there.
Yeah, and here's a great comment from Suzanne. Exactly what we're talking about here. Come on over here, mouse. Goes to the other. Come on, get over. There we go.
Yeah,
Okay, here we
Suzanne
go.
is absolutely correct with what she
Yes, look
says.
at
Too
that.
often we hear about all the negative, bad things, but there's some great, like there's a lot of good things that are going on within Africa. Like if you just do a little looking, like get past all that negative,
Right.
they've got some great things going on. It's not this, I kind of I don't want to say I hate the media, but I mean, it's always negative, negative. It's like
Yeah,
all of Africa is poor and starving and there's terrorism and like just it's all bad. But
it's
it's
all
not
bad. Get out of there. Right.
true.
You're scared. Exactly. That is if. But the thing is, and I think the thing that sort of convinced me is that okay, this place is the worst place on earth, hell on earth, really, hell on earth, but it's growing.
But it's growing.
But it's growing,
And
and
business is growing. And I mean,
everyone
if
I
you
see
look at
from
some of the
there is
sizes of their
upbeat.
cities and things that are going on, like
Yeah,
there's stuff, there is true good business, technology development, and things that are going on.
yeah, and I actually think Nigeria is going to become in the next decades. I think it's really going to become something. The demographics are the future. I mean, it's just that
Mhm.
simple. And the
Right.
culture, it's really, again, I just noticed this kind of go-getter
Mhm.
mentality, and it could just be the people that I meet. But at least they're at least. But the thing is, maybe it is just the people I meet. But those are your leaders. Those are the people who are
Right.
going to bring you. This is like not everybody here in the U.S. is that way, but we'll follow somebody who's doing that. And
Hmm.
so I think Nigeria has that. I think it has that core of people who are, they're in their 30s now doing better. And as they go up and mature, they're going to be bringing the generation behind them up, 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 and up. And they
Exactly.
have the population to support
Hmm.
that future as well. Anything, let's see here. So, anything else you could think of? Let's see, did we miss anything in the world about where we think some things are? Anything else in Eastern Europe? We hit Ukraine. It might be a good one. And then we're over here on the coast. Um, Anything else that we think might be coming up that's sticking out?
I
And I
think
can, what's that?
for up and comings, I think we've covered a lot. There's some um with kind of Central America-ish, there's been a little bit of talk, like Panama's not an up and like we've known for that. Parts of Costa Rica, but I think we've kind of missed with most of Costa Rica. I lived in Costa Rica for about 5 years.
Which part?
Um, I was in Tamarindo, the Northern Pacific side.
Okay. So I did have
And
a client, and I
Mhm.
think this is the one part of Costa Rica, because I had a client who was working on a development down here,
Okay,
and there's an attorney that talked to years ago, and it was down here. They were trying. This part, it's somewhere in here. I'm trying to look for the town. If I'll recognize the name. If I think I'll recognize the name if I see it. But this might be a place here because they were still trying to get the airport in.
okay,
There's an airport that's proposed, and essentially this part of Costa Rica is pretty beat because you got to take a pretty scary, like you got to get from here to here, and that ain't
yeah,
easy.
those small puddle jumper planes are a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, so I think and that's something that I would be looking. If I was looking for investments, like okay, where are real airplane, real places going to be put. And if you get an insight, okay, there's going to be an airport put in here that can handle a 737.
Right.
Now you're talking. And I know
Mhm.
because I think up here they did get there's been an airport up in where you've been for a
In
while.
in Liberia, there's an airport. Yes,
Yeah,
I would
so
always
that's
fly
why
into.
that's why it's so I think that's what you're looking for. There was a I mean that's kind of how he got into trouble. He had this development that didn't work out because he's pushing for it, but the funding for the airport fell through, and with that, the funding for the hotel, with that, the funding for all the ancillary buildings that were going to
Right.
support the hotel. So when something like that fails, that's also a great time to take a look to say, okay, well maybe I can just hang on a second, maybe I could just hold on.
Mhm.
Um,
And the northern part, as you said, with that airport, the northern part has gotten very expensive.
yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's now popular. Lots of people go, and I don't think there's really deals um, in kind of that northern part.
Yeah.
Nicaragua, that's kind of an iffy one. Um, I think most people kind of either have a love it or I don't want to say hate it, but a love it or it's okay
Well, I
kind of
think
thing. And the
Nicaragua, I
government
think
is, I
that it
think because
might,
the government's a bit unstable.
yeah, and I think that's what it is. But currently, the government is unstable in the favor of the more libertarian minded. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people are kind of excited about Nicaragua, but I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's love it, hate it.
Mhm.
So it
But
might
again,
be,
it's a bit more, it's kind of one of those things sometimes too that, the more risky it is can have the bigger payoff.
yeah, yeah,
But you
right,
could also have
exactly.
nothing too,
Right, and I
right?
mean, right
So,
now, and right now, and I think we'll just conclude probably with Mexico here because Mexico, boy, there's so many, it's Americans are going over the border to Mexico and investing
yeah,
heavily there. So I think you're a little late for most of it. You're a little late, I would
I
say.
think so too.
I'm not saying it's peaked out, but I think you're going to be a little late on the true bargains, and
Hmm.
someone's going to be very happy to sell you their property for sure.
Right, right. I think if you're going to be wanting to stay within the Americas, it's better off to go down to further south, as we talked about, to look at potentially Paraguay or Uruguay, to check out those regions. It's still a far flight. It's far. So again, but again, it depends. What are you investing
Yeah,
for? If you're not having to go there, then it doesn't matter how far away it is. If you don't plan on
yeah.
using the property or being there, then that doesn't matter. But those I think would be better investment areas as opposed to Mexico and Costa Rica.
Hang on. All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your expertise. So, just tell me how people can get in touch with you, and what is it that you exactly do, and how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I help people diversify globally. So I help them reduce their taxes down to zero or single digits, all completely legal. Everyone's like, you can't pay no taxes, but with having your corporations in the right countries and the right structure, and it's not loopholes that are going to be gone next year or that will change. And with diversification, having bank accounts in different countries. I mean, we've seen it where, the banks, we literally recently have seen where a bank that somebody's been banking at for 20, 30 years, they say, we're closing your account because they're not happy with the person's political views anymore, and they've been voicing that. We've seen the Canadian government freeze bank accounts for protesters or people who supported protesters. And then there's situations where there's hackers, right? Identity theft. So it's really important that I think people have bank accounts in other countries. We everything's done online, so you can still use your funds. So it's not like you're not going to be able to access it. So diversifying with investments, reducing taxes, having other bank accounts, and we help with residencies and citizenships too, because if the government decides for whatever reason they want to not renew your passport because it belongs to the government, you can't travel. You're stuck. Like literally, you are stuck, never being allowed to leave. So having at least one more passport and helping with residencies, which gives obviously opportunity for other investments that you may not get if you're a citizen or a resident of country. So we help people with global diversification, so they never have all their eggs in one basket and are never under the control of any one single government. So we help with that. My website is globalcitizenlife.org. I have a podcast as well, Global Citizen Life, and I have a book that came out a few months ago. You can get it on Amazon. It's called International Money Mastery.
All right. International. Let me take a look at that. I just got to get that up right now. I want to just get that up.
I have a
All right.
copy of it here.
International
International Money Mastery.
money. All right. I haven't looked at this before. Here we go. That's not you.
That's not me.
There
There it
you are.
is.
Is this you? Here it is. Wow. All right. I guess it's free. I guess I should read it then. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and
Look at
so,
this.
yeah, I just, nobody's gonna come
Check
save
it
us,
out.
so we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves and globally diversify, not only for ourselves, our family,
Wow.
and potentially even future generations.
Wow. Sally, I got to say, I really, really appreciate your philosophy. Um, you truly understand the world. You truly understand portfolio management. And so, well, congratulations on all your success, and I wish you much more. So thanks again for joining me today. Um, that's it. And I would
Thank
just
you
say,
very
anyone,
much
and by
for
the way,
having me.
yeah, thank you bet. And if anyone has other real estate hotspots, if you're watching this on
Mhm.
replay, please leave them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you're seeing, that we get our best information. And I think what Sally said before is, we kind of don't really trust the media. That, everything you hear is something somebody wants you to hear and somebody wants you to believe. I guess that's true. You could say for this for us too. We have a little bit smaller margin, so I don't think our incentive is as great. Um, so just remember that. And every story you hear, and I think one of the greatest sources of misinformation is in the financial sector.
Mhm.
People want you to believe the wrong thing because they can make money off of you believing the wrong thing. So that's really why you got to take it in control. This is something that you can't delegate to somebody else. You have to take care of your own future and do your best homework. All right, Sally, final words?
Just look at numbers. Everything comes down to numbers. You've got to take emotion out of it, take worry out of it, because numbers are numbers. They can be factual. They don't take that in. And sometimes we have to take a bit of risk, but I agree with what you said. Don't believe everything you listen to in the media, because there's lots of great investments, and diversification is key. You don't want one government having control over you. You want to make sure that you have options, and the best way to have options is diversification.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Sal. And thank everyone for
Thank
watching. And be
you.
sure to subscribe for more content coming up for the international investor. Thanks again.